Next thing we are going to build is the interactive components, our main theme for the video. We're going to build an interactive component for the button. So the first thing we're going to do is select a frame, create a frame on which we'll gather all our interactive components, and then create a grid. The grid is not necessary, it's just to guide me. It's just to create a margin for me so that I don't design out of that. Another method you can use to align your design is to draw the guidelines from the ruler. If you don't have the ruler turned on, you can turn it on by using the Shift R shortcut on your keyboard, and then you just drag the guideline from the ruler. Press R on your keyboard to select the rectangle tool, and then draw it on your artboard or frame and make changes to the properties. We set the color to linear in this case. We change the first color to the darker shade of blue and the second color to the lighter shade of blue. We then set the corner radius to 5 and then press T on the keyboard to select the text tool, and we type our work with us on our rectangular shape. We make sure our text is center aligned, and we change the properties of the text. After setting the properties of the text, the next thing we'll do is select both the text and the rectangle and group it. To group our selection, we press Command or Control D on the keyboard. Once again, we have to make sure it's well aligned. It's aligned in the center of the rectangle. After making those adjustments, we rename our group to Action Button. When we are done, we convert our button to a component by clicking on the component icon at the top of the window. Once you've created a component, you notice that component symbol is now changed to add variant. In order to add another variant, we click on that button and then it creates another variant for us, which we can edit to show another state of our component. For this variant, we're going to create a shadow. So we just duplicate the rectangle and then we set the properties. We drag it down a bit, change the size, and add a layer blur to it. We make some adjustments after we're done adding the layer blur. We then rename the shadow layer we just created. So the next thing we're going to do after we're done creating our hover variant is we're going to connect them together so that it becomes interactive. So we select the prototype tab and then drag the points from the default to the hover variant. Select mount, enter, and set the animation type to Smart Animate. We then connect the hover variant to the default, and then we select mouse leave for that. Our previous properties are already set, so we don't really make much changes there. Okay, now we're done with our interactive component. The next thing we're going to do is to utilize it. So we'll create a copy of our main component, drag it onto our main frame, and make sure it's well aligned to our logo. When we are done with that, we preview it to see what we've done so far. As you can see, our interactive component is working. The next thing we're going to do is create the menu item interactive component. So with that, you press T on your keyboard and type whatever it is you want to type, and then you change the properties, you set the properties. Once we are done with that, we get the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle over our menu item, and then we bring the menu item text to the front and make sure it's center aligned to our rectangle. We adjust our rectangle a bit to suit our preference. We then draw another smaller rectangle at the bottom edge of our rectangle we first created and adjust it a bit. It has to be small. Then we rename it to bar. And then we change the color to the deeper shade of blue. We then change the color of the larger rectangle to the lighter shade of blue and reduce the intensity to 5%. When we are done with setting the rectangle properties, we select them at the same time and then group them. We draw another rectangle over our whole shape. We are going to use this new shape as our mask, so rename it mask. Once we are done with that, we bring our menu item text to the front, and then the mask layer behind the group. Select both the group and the mask layer and create a mask. Once we are done with that, we select both the mask group and the menu item text and group them. Then we rename our new group to menu item. We then create a component of our new menu item group. We expand the contents of the component by pressing the rectangular icon, and then we go into marks group and select marks from that, and we adjust our marks to hide our shape. Once we finish with that, we create a variant of our new component. We rename it to hover, and then in this new variant we find our mask layer and adjust it to make our shape visible. The next thing we do after that is to connect our component to make it interactive. So we select prototype and then we make our component interactive by connecting the dots to each other and setting the properties. Once we are done making our component interactive, the next thing we are going to do is use it. So we create a copy of our component and then send it to our main frame and we edit. When we finish, we'll preview it to see what we've done so far. As you can see, the components we created are working very well.